Alright, we got Jim back out and we loaded up this Lance. And this thing is so bad we had to put straps on it. You can see the rot underneath here. So we got to get that slide out box out. I can't do it quite in the shop, so I'm going to do it here. And then we'll rebuild all that and put the slide back in. But everything on this bunk is rotted all around there. Bunk is all rotted. Roof's trashed. So this whole side is pretty much trashed. You can see the slide out's all messed up. I got to figure what's going on with it. And then you can see down here this other piece. So the other side of it, got some issues here too. And I'm really concerned about the way these jacks are in, so we'll inspect all that. But the back doesn't look like it's got as many problems. I haven't noticed anything as of yet. So, and then this doesn't look tremendously bad except for up front around that bunk up there. You can see there's a few ripples from some delamination. And then other than that, we're gonna try to get this thing off of here and at least get the slide out. I have to loosen up those straps to do it. I'm gonna obviously leave it on the truck, and then we just park it down in there. That's what's good about this old truck. It's just an old 88 truck that I picked up for this. I put one on another truck that I had. Some of these Lances get pretty heavy, and I just call these things yard dogs, but I put it on this one here, and this is a 2500. Years ago I put one on there and it squashed into the ground, and I was like, stop! And it wasn't even, the jacks weren't all the way up on when we did that the first time, and that's why I went out and bought this. I'm not going to beat up that truck. It'll pull a triaxle, it'll do all that. It's a strong truck, but this is much better. Handles it no problem and doesn't squat, and also I can get it in the bay and we can work at the same elevation where our catwalks are and our scaffolding, right? So well, let's try and take this thing out of here. Now we gotta release a couple pieces in the front before it pops out. What? Let's see if we can get it now. Up anymore? Yeah. That's good? That's good. There's our box. Now we'll inspect everything and see how that platform is, the bottom part of that. We'll look at that, then we'll see how much damage we got up in here. Why we need to get it out. You can see it all right there, separate from the wallpaper. So all of this and all of this got to come out.
You should be able to pull all that back in, Zach.
Yeah, we'll dismount it. Look at all the rot we got here. We just started trying to take some of the trim out. Took the frame to the slide out, got that out, got the refrigerator loosened up, but up there is it's pretty shaky and sketchy. This is already coming apart. They had these pieces, little pieces, so I think years ago somebody was monkeying with this. This is all dried out. So I don't think Gorilla Tape's going to work on this. We're actually going to have to do something to it. Look at that. That's a hot mess. And there's more on the other side. I got some over here. Pardon me, fine sir. That's a real jazzy shirt. Right? The shoulders on this guy. What a billboard. I got some around here too. This is, I got some stuff going on here. We'll have to at least check that out. Take some more doors off. And I don't know what we got here. I'm looking inside. We thought we were going to have to do the whole ceiling and all, and it actually looks pretty good. So, but that doesn't mean anything. By the time I tear the roof off, we'll see if it looks like it's damaged or compromised or molded, rotted, whatever. Sometimes the actual ceiling vinyl looks okay, but the sheet itself is just no good. So we'll find out. But if we can salvage it, we will. No need in tearing apart a wallet if we don't have to. You know, if we don't have to poke that bear, I don't like to do it. We want to fix what we need to fix for these folks and get them back camping. All right, so we got all the siding off with this passenger side. Look at all this rot. So some of this is the refrigerator condensation line, and it was hanging like this. So I cut it up here, but I'm noticing it doesn't go through that hole. The hole right here. It's supposed to go down, so it drains, and it can't even fit through that hole. Doesn't even fit. I'm pushing it down, did not want to go through. So I'm sure that contributed to some of this rot. That's for sure. Now we're gonna try and take all this apart so we can rebuild get it going. Figure it out. There's so many things that are rotted. You really have to try to get all your measurements right, so you put it back so it all fits right. And since it's hard to measure when things are rotted, like that's all rotted. So you can't get a measurement from here to here because that's rotted. So you have to know what this is. So that's what we look for. Try to negotiate where it could be. We gotta take the wires out and all this other stuff too. Then this platform runs all the way over up underneath this wall, so we got to get all that and free it up. So we had to brace it up. All that's obviously rotted, and it does look like that ceiling panel is rotted. When I poked my head in there and looked at it, this edge anyways is rotted. We'll see just how much there is that's rotted, and see how we're going to fix it, if we're going to tear it all out. But again, I'm trying not to if I don't have to. You know, if we can fillet it off, sometimes you can fillet it off and then I can fix it another way. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, you can see all the rot we got. I showed you all this already, I believe. So we thought it was hopefully on this facade, but it's not. It's down underneath the generator. It's going back there. These little pieces. So we're digging everything out. This whole corner was all rotted. So we took all this apart. And then we got around here and under the door sill, so now we're trying to remove all that to replace that piece, at least that little bit of section right there that's rotted. We got to get rid of that, and so that's what we're doing, is digging all this stuff out. Once we dig it out, then we can frame it. So instead of reframing all this with wood, what they had here, and this is all it was, Lance is supposed to be the super duper ones. I've worked on more of these things. I almost cringe every time I hear a Lance or a Georgetown. Oh, gee whiz. Maybe Georgetown I get in here needs major work. All right, so see, I think that's like 3/4 of an inch. They got an 1/8 inch on this side, 1/8 inch on that side. So that's gonna basically give you about an inch, right? That's all it is. So I think one side maybe 5 mil or whatever, but it comes out to about 1 1/8 inches, I guess. When I measured this platform here, this is probably 1 inch on this side, but it's still 3/4. But my point is, that's what they had carrying right here all the way across. That was what was going to hold the slide out. How can you really think that that is going to hold a slide out? I mean, really? That doesn't make sense to me. So what we did is, I made a piece of steel frame that's going to come. I've done one before. There's another one on this channel. And then it's going to come down and run all the way under here. It's going to be all steel. All steel. It's going to come over here, then it returns back up. But now the other problem I got, excuse me, this is the other problem they do with Lances. You would think that's a heavy duty bumper, but this is just bolted. This bumper right here, all around, this bumper just has a flange right here. It's bolted right here and right here to the wood frame. That's it. It's not a tow bumper or anything like that. I don't even know if you want to call it a bumper. It's more of like a glorified step, because if you really tried to put any weight or pressure on it, you'd probably tear it off. But now I got to, like I said, undo all these bolts here. The other thing I didn't like, still don't like, it's up underneath here. There's nothing. There's nothing here but wood on the other side, right? And so now in the cold, when this piece of aluminum gets cold, then basically it forms like a condensation, because it's getting cold, right? So all metal does it. All products do it in that sense. Even your roofing shingles. That's why they put tar paper down or synthetic underlayment, because it's cold on the surface side that you can see, but then on the underside it's also cool. So then when the sun hits it and it gets warm, then basically you get a condensation issue and you get this to all rot out. So really should have had some protection on here, or at the very least it should have had some sort of paper or something to separate it, basically almost like a thermal barrier, if you will. to try to put it on there, but there isn't. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to put that in there. And then this was a piece of wood that ran all the way up here, right? I don't like that either. So I don't think it adds a lot of strength, because what they did is they stopped this heavy stock piece and they put this piece right here. You see that screw? That goes up through the grain of the board that was here. So it doesn't have the holding power that you would think. It's a good thing they did put these bolts here. So I'm probably going to put a piece of steel and extend it, although even though I made all this frame, I'll just weld another piece on and bring it down. This way I can bolt it right to the bumper, and then I'm going to start building everything all together to kind of pull it together in concert, as I call it, you know, get it all to work together. So the way these things are built, it's not one thing that holds it together. It's not like an elephant, put the weight on it and it stays. This is like a lot of ants. A lot of ants. That's what it is. This ant does that job, this ant does this job, and by the time you get all those ants together, then they have some holding power. So, but anyhow, like I said, that's what we got there. On the other side, didn't look so bad, so I'm not even messing with the, when I say the other side, I mean the driver's side. It doesn't look that bad. So I'm really not going to poke that bear if don't need to be. It just would be unnecessary to tear it all apart for that, especially again if there's no issue with it. But see, this is the they had bolts coming up through here, and I can show you even over here. So this is your bumper, comes around right here. Again, I keep calling it a bumper. This is your step, and then they just screwed it right to this piece of wood that was secured into this one. So that's all it is. Again, it's not a bumper. It's more of a step. So, you know, if you were to put a hitch on this thing, maybe you could tow a couple $100 pounds, like maybe a canoe, if you had that heavy of a canoe. But you know what I'm saying, you're not pulling anything heavy with this. Definitely put it to the truck. You don't put it on this. All right, well, let me see what I can do. I got to get all this out of here, and I got to reframe all this. My light goes here. That's what this is. That's the light. And then all this is good. So I just got to bring it all back together and see what we can do. And I'll double check all this. That one I believe was taken out because that one's rotted. And then we'll marry it all back together and put another piece up there. And see there's foam inside there. That's how they build these things. So you just get that foam platform. You got this frame here, and then they put another piece on the bottom, and then you have the foam in the middle and another piece on there. So that's how they kind of insulate it in a sense. So, all right, well, here we go. So we've got most of this all back together, pulled in. We've got actually a piece of steel under there that I wanted to show. So this is all rotted. I remember showing that there, and what I did is I don't know if I can get that out to show it, but there's a piece of square tubing, and that 2x that was cut, it runs all the way underneath the whole entire coach. You're not getting it out. So what I did is I left about 8 inches of it that was good stock, and then I took the tube stock, like that, it was just bigger. I took the tube stock and I slid it over and glued it to the little stub to give it some strength. Then there's another piece up underneath here where you see these screws going in. There's another piece of steel that runs over there, and then there's another piece that comes back up. So we framed it all with steel on there to pull it all back together. I'll see if I pop that off maybe to show you. But we already got this panel done, and the way they did the panels is they just had a skin. They glued it really well. I gotta admit that. I mean, there was glue everywhere. We glued it as well, but they put some glue on there on everything. And then the thing I didn't like though is they just used batten insulation. So here it is over here. You can see the batten insulation they used, but they really did. They glued everything all together. So that's a plus, and it's some good adhesive too. So it held real well. So we got to get this skinned off so we can balance out to put the new siding on, and that's what we're doing now. And instead of putting this crappy little, what's that, 3/4 inch batten insulation, that doesn't do anything. We're going to put in some foam. I'll glue some foam in there instead, but we still got to clean all this up so we can get that sheet to lay flat, and then we can put the Phylon on there, the siding. So now I'm curious to see. I can't remember. I have to go back in the camera to see if I actually showed you that. So I'm going to see if I can take that off and see if we can notice anything under there. All right, so there's a square stock I was talking about right there, and the end of the 2x goes into that hole. And I'm talking about over here. You can see it runs down here. To carry all that weight, I had to get something to get some strength in there. And then obviously we bolted it all together. That's the frame to the generator, and then this bumper just sags, and we had to bolt all that obviously back together. So all of that runs all the way over here, and then we framed everything all back in to get some strength on it. So obviously you can see we welded a new frame for the slide out. We got all that. We even got the slide out rack right here. We get that all set up. And then all that tape and everything you see that's on there, that's before you take something apart, you better know where it's going to go back. So that's what we did before we took it apart. So and like I said, we got this piece here. So we already made up this panel. It's got foam in it, all put together. And then like I said, we just got to finish this up over here. Once we get all that completed, we can come up here and then start working here and rip the roof off. But I believe that we'll have to do some inspection on this other side. This is the driver's side. But I think this one, I think they call these things wings or something. But I'm feeling like back here, back in here feels soft. Actually, you can hear that. So I guess we got some rot in there. So we're gonna have to try to break that loose and see how we can fix that. I'm trying not to do a minimal amount of damage to it as possible. But we may be able to take this off and at least cut this section and then drop that, and then we can conceal the cut with this. So that's the plan. We'll see if it works out that way. All right, so now these are, I'm not going to try to open this up and try to put a piece of steel in there or anything. They had no problem with it, so I'm not going to poke that bare. But on the ones that I made over here, I got the steel coming in. I'm going to tap into here and I'm going to thread it, and I'll put the bolts in that way. It'll be all threaded, and you can see we got all that glue on there. So, and then this is just a stitch plate. That's all I did. It's a stitch plate. I got another one going up on here. We'll put another stitch plate on it, just as a prudent measure. I like to keep everything all together, so you just got to keep stitching things together to make sure it's all gonna, because this is gonna lift the whole thing up. So if it is, this is sitting on here for sure, and this is here. I mean, I doubt this is ever gonna get compromised, but I mean, it's good sized steel right here. It's strong enough to carry it, that's for sure. There's it's just 11 gauge, so it's not the heaviest thing, but it's strong enough to carry all of this. But I still like to see things pulled together. It's just the way I build. So and then obviously we got to skin the rest of this. That's what I was saying. They did use some pretty good glue here. You can see some of the score marks of us trying to get this off. So it's all glued on there really well. I'll add really well. So, which that's the only good thing I can say about this, at least this camper. You know, some of them aren't quite like that. But all right, let us get onward and upward so we can get this back together. All right, so we got to working on this. This is a piece of molding that's supposed to snap together. And I guess the last guy who worked on it, alright, show you the camera there, put all this booger in there, couldn't break the molding off. So he just had to peel it up. That's it all curled up right here, that piece right there. I'll find another one for that. But this is some of the rot we have right here. And you can clearly see how bad that is. It looks like it's running down the bottom there too. And I'm looking over here. Let's see what's going on right here. It looks like I got something there I got to at least investigate. Let's see how bad it is, if it's more of like water stained or if it's actually rotted. So we got to try to get that free. I don't want to break that if I can prevent that. And then that's where we're at so far. You can see there better with the light. So looks like that piece that way down there that's coming down by the door is rotted, and that little piece. All right, we'll get this out and we'll figure out what it is. I'm just more concerned about, I know this is rotted right here. I just don't want it to keep traveling all the way up here and have to take more off to try to fix it. Let's see how we do. All right, we got the Luan on here. Glued everything all together. And then we put the foam in there. That's the foam we use. It's just a polystyrene, but it's going to be a lot better than that yellow, batten insulation. So we still got to do a repair here before we can actually put the siding on. So we got a little bit of damage down here. We're going to see if we can splice that back in and fix that up. Some people ask why customers come in and we do all this work to it and it's cheaper to get a new one. And I don't know if anybody's priced a Lance camper, truck bed camper, but one of the companies up here in Chattanooga, they were advertising it $68,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. $68,000 for something you put in the back of your truck here, and it barely has, what you got? Well, I think the whole thing's 14 foot. You can put 64, maybe 64 square feet. It's like $1,000 a square foot. Wow. This is a piece of ceiling panel. That's all that is. That's why it all rotted, or at least that's what contributed to some of it. So we're gonna get something a little better than that behind there, that's for sure. All right, so we get this lower wing, we get that all done. You can see all the adhesive that we used to put together. Then right down in there, you can see those little slots. Those are pocket screws. They go up through there to attach. Then they're screwed into their floor right there, and then they're screwed in the bottom. And we glued on the back. This piece actually came up a little higher, so we laminated another piece on the back. And we're just, since we glued it in, we just put the clamp on there for that. So we get all that together. And then we patched up this back wall right here, and we're prepping that panel so we can get that back on. Fix the floor right here. Got one more piece I think is going in there, pretty sure. And then that's about us. So we get some of this together and then get some Phylon on here. All this is all done. So we've got all this together. So it's just a matter of getting the Phylon cleaned up and getting it glued back on. Well, this is the way they framed the roof. It's just got one nose at 1.5 inch little sticks going across, right? That's it, it's all flat. That's really not a lot of strength to hold the air conditioner and so forth. We got some pole jacks up underneath there. I don't know if you see them. You can see it coming up that way. So we've got those holding all that up. Then we're going to put another piece. We're going to clad another truss on top of this. This roof is good. There's nothing really wrong with it per se. I mean, it's not rotted. The interior of the ceiling, the only issue I have is over here by the slide out that he's cleaning. I'll show you that in a minute. But otherwise, there's nothing wrong with it. So it does, at this point, have some structural integrity. Wouldn't say this is a lot of structural integrity, but it does have enough. So where I wouldn't want to tear it apart is my point. So when you put this top layer of sheathing on there, and there's got the bottom layer, when they sandwich all that together, and it's, as long as it's glued well, it's holding, then it's going to be pretty strong, or at least have some strength. And again, it's probably not going to be enough to satisfy long term where it probably wouldn't cave in or so, and I don't really feel comfortable with it. So now what we're going to do is just make some tiny little trusses to add on top of these ones. So it'll have just a little bit of camber to it and add a little bit more strength to it. So that's our plan. And then we'll have to kind of slope it down this way and slope it down the front so we can get all the pieces to come back together. But over on the other side here, this is where we had the rot. And we're trying to be real easy, because all we got is just this little bit of paper that was ripped. And man, that'd be a lot of work to tear this all apart just for that. So we got to replace a piece of wood in here that was absolutely destroyed, just mulch. You saw that on the previous videos, or the previous clips rather. So this here is solid, but it's kind of dry rotted in a way. So we'll end up putting another piece way back here. This is all good back here. We'll put another piece there. And the more you start trying to aggravate other stuff, you're going to compromise like the ceiling and so forth. And I don't really want to do that. I'm trying to salvage that ceiling and then stay off of the wallet is really my goal here, and to get it done so it's going to last. But if there's some things, like you said, like this, I don't think that's going to be a big issue. As again, it would take a lot of time to try to pull this up, relaminate, reframe the whole entire thing, rewire it, yada yada yada. So we're going to get another piece in here as well. We'll get all this squared away. But that's what we got going on. So the new trusses that I'm talking about that I'm going to make are just going to sit on top of this, and we're going to glue it and fasten it together, and that'll add a little bit more strength to it. That's kind of the plan. So let's see if all that pulls through. Sometimes I look at something and I go, hey, this is what I want to do, and then I go, I don't know if I like it that way. Once I try doing it, who knows? We'll see. Done enough of these where I know what I'm looking for and where I need to get my strength, and I got to see if those trusses are going to do it for me without throwing everything else out of whack. You just can't say, hey, I'm going to slap another 2x4 across there, because all of your siding, it won't fit. All of the trim going around, it won't fit. None of this stuff will fit. So we go ahead and we do what I'm talking about and put the trusses on here, and they'll have some camber, so they'll be shaped, arched. If I come up here and I have it that way, that siding, that front Phylon that's rolling down, it's not going to fit. So again, I got to negotiate some sort of, and you also want it to look aesthetically pleasing. You don't want the thing looking like you just, you know, something off of the Beverly Hillbillies mobile. So, all right, let's see it, give it a try. All right, this is what we got. So we're framing it all out, and we're piggybacking on top of the old original trusses. So we know where they are. We found all those, and then we glued it all in, and then we screwed it down into the original trusses. But you can see what I was telling you. I don't know if you can see that big gap. This is too long of a span for just a 2x2. That's all they got. It's too long of a span. So even though a ply foam roof in itself is pretty strong, it still has its parameters. So that's why I made these just low trusses, just enough to get some extra strength on it. I don't want to put too much on here, make it too heavy. So that's another factor you got to consider. So then we come up to the front. We did it this way. I'm going to slope it down all the way down there. So now everything will marry all back together, and that roof line will just come up, kind of just keep rolling all the way up, so it doesn't look like it shouldn't have been, right? That's kind of the goal. And now over here, what we're trying to do is, I got to put a special boot here, and when I do, it's going to hang over on here, and I'd rather see if I can just move this pipe in a little bit. So we're going to see if we can do that. So, but like right now, we're going to have to jack that up to get it, so we can screw it together nice and tight, and then it'll have all that strength. And like you said, this adhesive we use, it's like liquid nails on steroids. It's not coming apart. You'll rip, if you take all those screws out, it wouldn't even matter. You'd end up having to rip the grain of the wood apart before it would actually separate the glue. It's super strong stuff. Here's some clicking going on down there. Must be that jack we got. See if we can close that gap up. Keep coming.
Keep going.
Come on.
Yeah. Want that product under?
I thought there was. Well, you can just bring it up and then we can get it.
Yeah,
come on.
Got some under. Come on.
That's where the air conditioner is. That's why I want to get all that strength on there.
Keep going.
All right, now we're coming up.
You got a little more?
Little more. Little more, Mo.
I'd say that's good. This one's good.
Try it. All right, set it down. Oh, it's called camber.
Camber?
Yeah, yeah. We put the crown up. It'll be all right. Crown goes up.
Yeah, that's good.
So that'll pull us. If he wants to go just a skosh more, he can, and then we can let it rest.
Get on the other side of the hole.
There we go.
Just a skosh.
What he's saying is the board in itself has its own natural crown. Is what he was saying. Some people call it a curve. Call it crown.
That one's pretty flat.
There you go. That'll get us. So this is what's known as ply foam. So I didn't explain it. There's foam in here, and then you got the ceiling panel. The ceiling panels here. We just put a blocker here, but the ceiling panels right here. And then they just put these sticks in this frame around here, so you have something to screw to. But other than that, it's all foam. And then you jump over. Maybe there's another, truss that they put in there. Not all of them are 1.5 either. Some of these that we found are only 1 inch. So 1 inch by 1.5. But anyhow, that's what ply foam is. And you can see it on you'll see it on, some of these campers. You'll especially see them on like Class A's, Class C's. It's common. It's a great system as long as it's obviously built right. But on here again, even though it has that ply foam, and again, I like the system, you're going 8 foot. That's a lot to ask, especially with an air conditioner. Now you're going down the road, that thing's bouncing, and all that weight taxes it. And especially if you get a leak, then the whole thing would just start sagging in. So, like I said, we're just going to try to see if we can move that over just a hint so I can get a better boot on it instead of wrapping it up over the side. We'll see what we can do. All right, now we've got everything all framed up. We moved that pipe over that way just a little bit. So we got all that, but you can see we glued the bejesus out of this thing. We got everything all glued up. We got the adhesive we use, and it's all done. We made our little slope down there for the front. So I think we got one more piece put in right here, and then other than that, we're ready to go. We can start getting some insulation in here, and then getting some decking on it.
Come my way. A little bit.
Alright.
You got any more?
No. Alright, we got this siding that we already got glued. We're about to tack it. We got some other over there already done. So we're gonna get this thing stuckified. Alright, so we've got obviously the decking all down. We've already glued this passenger side, that's already done. Then, you know, we got this camber going on. So we fabricated another piece to go up underneath there. So it'll extend it up so it looks nice and clean. See, we got our protective strips all on there. So we're gonna get, once it's what's called flash off, it's a contact cement. You have to glue this, you have to glue that. That's how it works, sticks together. So once it flashes off and becomes sticky, right now it still looks a little wet, you can see it's a little yellow. But anyhow, once it does, we'll roll it over and we can start putting our curbs on and everything and pull it back together. Most of this is already done. We got the door back in. I think we got a light to put in down there. And then we got the slide out already. We just have to get it put in. So we're getting there. We're getting there. That's for sure. So, and then when you look at this coach, like you'll never see. I think I already showed you this. But you can see this slopes down nice. That's a nice transition right there. It's real smooth. You'd never know that this roof was built up. You'd never know that it wasn't supposed to fit on here. So it'll add a lot more strength to this thing. Let's see if we can get our slide out in. Slide out in. Sounds like an oxymoron. Alright, so we've got the slide out in and we operated it and it's sitting pretty well. We've got a new gasket we're going to put right here. So we got to get that on and then she should be ready to go. And we're going to try and clean up some of this with a decal or something. That's about all we can do. You see we got the slide out in, went around, caulked everything, caulked all around there, around the windows, went around, caulked everything back up. We got the slide out that was sitting over there for a while. And then we noticed there was a bubble in here. It had some D-lam. So there's different types and different ways things to laminate. But this piece in here was all rotted. You can see it right there. That's it there. So we dug that one out. But this, the water got in and separated this, which is basically delamination. But sometimes the sheathing can delam. So if you look here, like you can see a little bit there, but that's not that aggressive. And this right here is only a couple inches. So other than that, it's stuck. So we're going to epoxy this back together. You can't do this all the time, and I think we can epoxy this back together and get it back after we replace this board that goes in here. So that's our plan. But if it had all wrinkles in it and was all kind of squirrely, where it wouldn't lay flat, then we would have been forced to have to take the window out, take everything out, replace the piece. So that's why there's a lot of different variables. When people say, oh, you got D-lam, you can do this. Not necessarily. You have to know what caused it and what the damage is up underneath it. If you don't know all that, then you can't correct it properly. So in this case, like I said, this is good. It was just this one piece right here. It's just kind of weird. I wonder if it came in from the corner, but otherwise it seems pretty good. So that's what we're up to. Everything else went all sealed. We got some got these jacks back on. We bolted these in. These got tapped in. So these are threaded bolts. They're not. They're machine thread is what I'm getting at. And I put, you know, these are grade 5s that are in here. And then kind of like, let's see, kind of like these, right? But they're obviously bigger. Those are 1/2 inch. So we plated those all together. These ones here are just for the jack to hold on to these plates. But these are going into some steel right here. The same with the front ones that we did. So we got that all together. Back's all done. Got all that squared together, squared away. And then put a gutter on the back here. And I'll show you the rest once I get all this together. Obviously we fixed all this. I think I've already shown all this here. So maybe going over stuff we've already done. you know, and all that. I think we got a license plate or something to go in here, and then put a new skin on here. We had to take that apart. I think we already showed you that. So otherwise, I think we're about ready to go. There's a license plate down there. I'm not sure what goes in there. Maybe it's a latch to hold the door. Oh, there's the latch. There's something else here. Maybe the awning, actually. Maybe the awning. But anyhow, we'll see what goes there. All right. Start getting absent-minded after you start working on these things. So, all right. Well, we'll give you an overview after we're all done with all this. But like I said, you can see that purple. We just put the tape on there because we handle it. I don't want to get all caulking on the bottom of it. But it'll come down. It'll hit that spout. Put a new spout there. A new spout on the other side. Get new gutters. Keep all this water off the coach. I had to make this other piece that's above the light. I had to fabricate that to make the difference of our camber on our roof, right? Because I made that camber, so this was straight across, so I had to fill that in there. So we customized a piece of aluminum to fit in there, and that looks nice and clean. And then, like I said, everything's getting all sealed up, so could use a bubble bath for sure. Alrighty, so now we have got it all epoxied back together, and we stitched it back up. Put all the caulking back on it again. We also put this rake edge piece here to get, when the water comes down, I want it to kind of go away from the coach. So it's a little wider over here and it narrows down over this way. We did it on both sides. So we got it pretty much going on. We just got to clean up the roof a little bit. I'll give you a video of that. And kind of like an incline up there. I don't know if you can see it above the gutter. We'll try and wipe all that off and clean it up, get it ready for the prom. Well, we are done with our lance. Yahoo! This was a long project, that's for sure. I think we got about 3 weeks on this thing. Just roughly about 3 weeks on this. This was a really, really long project. But I mean, there was so much. Every time we turned around, there was something else, something else, something else. But so I want to start off by thanking for the customer for bringing this to us. We appreciate the work. You see, we got our little stamp on here. That just really tells us when we put the roof on, when it comes back for inspections, we can always see how old the roof is and how it's performing, that type thing. Also, if they ever went to sell this little truck bed camper, then you know, they can say, hey, the roof was just put on in July of 23. So, you know, so people know, because we offer a transferable warranty. So everything you see here, we fabricate everything. These are not DIY videos, so please don't take them that way. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I don't even know how long this video is going to be, but there's a lot of stuff that we do that I couldn't possibly video everything. So we generally, all these videos that we put together, in as much as I appreciate everybody watching, they're really geared to let the customer know all the work we did. So, and I'm not a videographer. A lot of times I'll probably talk and move around quicker than the camera will focus, and you know, I apologize for that, but got a lot of bays that I'm working with and a lot of things on my mind that I'm trying to get done. But so hopefully you can put up with that. But anyhow, we got this is all one curb. This whole thing is all one curb, and everything is all heat welded. All that's heat welded. There's no caulking on there. It's not glued in. That is all heat welded. So one of these is the plumbing vent that we moved because it was hanging way off the edge. So we moved it over. I can't remember which one it was. But then the other one here is an intake. That's an intake. And what this is the solar fan. What happens on these lenses is, especially during like the spring and the fall when it's cooler in the morning and then the sun's coming up, going to warm up to be a nice day, you'll get maybe some dew on there, maybe a little bit of frost even. And now when the sun comes up, it's going to evaporate what's on the top side of this lens. It'll evaporate it out. But the temperature and everything has caused it to frost or condensate up underneath on the inside of this. So now you've got an inner shell, or you got an inner lens, and then you have this lens. So there's a cavity in there, and there's no air in there. So what happens is when the sun comes up and warms that up and evaporates it off the top, on the underside, all it does is warm it up, and now it becomes condensation, and it starts drooling down the sides of the skylight. And it'll get into the roof deck, it'll get into and around, and that's how it starts working. And you know, that's known as dry rot. It's chronic, it's very small droplets, but eventually, you know, the wood will soak it up, and then eventually it won't be able to soak up anymore, and then that's when you start noticing leaks. So you can also notice, we don't use screws. I don't put screws on these lenses. I've tried different brands and everything else, but they're just known and prone to crack. We don't not screw them down. These are solely glued down, And what may cause the lens to crack is you get into a hot day. You know, we'll say it's whatever, 100 degrees out, 90 degrees out, whatever, really hot day. Sun's beating down on that thing. Then you get a thunderstorm. So as the sun is sitting on that, it's causing it to expand. Then when the cold water from the thunder shower hits it, it contracts real quick. And that's what causes these little fractures. So there's not much you can do about that. We don't warranty the lenses. We don't warranty the fans or anything like that. Our warranty is for the roof system in itself. The components in the roof itself won't leak. So obviously, you know, there are fans in these. We don't warranty the fans either, or air conditioner, things like that, right? So, but what happens now is, like I said, when the water is inside here and drools down, it has no place to go. So what I did is I designed up, this is a solar fence. Now when the sun comes up to evaporate off of this lens, that solar fence is going to kick on. And what it'll do is it'll draw air from here and it'll go up on top of the inner lens, and there's a channel in there, and it'll run out in an exhaust. So you got this cycle of air right up through there, and it keeps it dry. So, you know, you probably want to check that once in a while and make sure when they come back for inspections, we like to see if they're still working ourselves. So, but like I said, all this is all one component, this whole curb. I had to custom make. Everything here is all custom made. And that's the advantage to come to a shop like ours. We look at it, and once I assess what it needs, I can custom build anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I've done big curbs for satellites, the ones that raise up and kind of do a search and seek, those type satellites. I've done them for those. I've done them for all different types of things. So the boots over here, we got those, that's all heat welded in there, and we got a special sealer in those little boots. And now when you walk up that ladder, a lot of ladders are known to kind of shift and shimmy a little bit, and that's what will cause them to leak on there. So we put these boots on there and then we seal them. So now that's all done. You can notice we got on the air conditioner, we got a couple of stands in the back, you know, and that just gives it some balance because we got a curb up underneath here. And then right in the front right there, you see that's a piece of counter flash. So what we're trying to do here is keep the water, we want to just direct it somewhere else. All of the curves that I designed, they all have, this is a counter flash right here. This is your flashing, this is counter flashing. So now as the water is coming across the coach, the roof, it's going to come up here and it's going to get redirected. And what that does is it minimizes erosion effect. That's the purpose of it. So it'll get swished around and it won't be able to jump up and, like you said, minimize that erosion. All that said, this curb is the same way. So up underneath the air conditioner here is a foam gasket. That's the way they do them on the industry. And what they'll do is put it right to the roof. And now it's exposed to all of that weather, generally exposed to all that weather. So now you get pollen, you get dirt, you get debris that's all hitting that, and it will dry out that gasket. So now that's elevated, we don't have to worry about that. But now when the water comes down, I don't want it to come down and then drool along the back here and get into that gasket at all. So we put a piece of counter flash on there, and it's just a piece of aluminum that we put on there. So now when it comes down from the front cover, it'll go below the counter flashing like I just showed you. It'll go below that and then run out, so it's not getting up underneath the curb like that. So we've got the same heat welded boots for the radio antenna, and then these are some other boots that I designed here, and those mounts, those are galvanized bolts. And if the customer ever had an issue with this antenna failing or clipped it with a tree, whatever, need to replace it, 9/16 bolts will take it out, undo your coax, it'll pop off, go in the store, get another one, drop it on. You don't have to worry about sealing anything. It's all done. So I made this other curb here, this custom one to fit this one, and you can see the solar panel. We did the same thing with those mounts and the same style of galvanized bolts. Got our refrigerator over there, is obviously the same thing, all heat welded together. We got another boot over there, that's for, the, as you can see, the solar wire. So we've got all that together, so now even that won't leak. So everything's all tightened up. The other thing we did on this coach is we replaced the gutters, and once we got all these new gutters on here, it just, the other gutters, I don't even know if this really had gutters. Can't remember, it's been a while. But anyhow, we put new gutters on it, and we put some new insert trim in. So when we put these gutters on, the way we do them, we glue them on. So they get glued on, and then every screw up underneath here, see if I can, I know he just caulked this, I didn't really want to try to delve into it, but every screw is sealed. Every screw is sealed in there. Every single screw. So you want to seal all that. You want to make sure they're all sealed. And if you look at this one, it's got a little track in there. See that little track? That's so it fits up inside there. And part of it goes up underneath, and part of it goes on top. And what that does is just forces the water out. See if I can smooth that out a little bit, make it look a little cleaner. There we go. All right. So obviously we put some new spouts on there. So since we did the roof, I think I already showed you how we did all that, added that piece to it, but I did put the gutter on the back and got that all done. So we are pretty much all set. We got the awning back on, had to put a new spring in here because that had failed. And that's basically the system. Now this roof system is a 20-year roof system. It is a commercial grade TPO, it's called. TPO is a thermoplastic. Thermoplastic is what allows us to heat weld all this together. So again, this is a commercial grade. This isn't RV grade. Now, if anything, all the products, shall I say, all the products we use here are all commercial products. So all the caulking and adhesives, everything, it's all commercial. So that being said, on a commercial level, it starts off at a 45 mil, and that's the thickness, and then it goes to 60, 90, go 120, and so forth. But this grade is 60 mil, so it's a grade up from your lowest grade of commercial. It's also what's known as a structured membrane or reinforced membrane. And what that is, if you can kind of see right here, see those little squares in there, and then you can see this little mesh by my finger. It's got a weave in it, and that's what helps prevent damage and punctures from tree branches and hail and so forth. Super strong system. So this is the product, and here's our stamp on here. If you want a sample of this, you just reach out to us and we'll send you one. There's our information right there. Hopefully you can read it, rvroofinstall.com. But our telephone number is 423-475-7663. And there's also a card in the beginning and a card at the end of the video, you know, if you're interested in that. But now the maintenance on this is real simple. All you do is wash it down with some dish soap. If you want to go to a truck wash and have them wash it, you can. You can pressure wash these. You can come up here with a bucket of dish soap, suds it up, and then hose it off. It'll come back brilliant just like this. You know, you should be washing these things a couple times a year. And you know, it'll come back just like this. It'll look great. So the warranty is a 20-year membrane warranty. All warranties work the same way. It doesn't matter the material. It doesn't matter the manufacturer. It's all material warranty. So they're saying the material in itself will not fail. That being said, if it is, we'll say hypothetically, it does fail, even like Dycor, when it fails, right, and they get a fly in the ointment, so to speak, when they get that, they'll say, all right, here's some more roofing, and that's it. They generally are not going to cover labor. But I don't want somebody coming all this way, and then when they come all this way, we put the roof on, and if there's an issue with our workmanship, we stand behind that. So come back in for your inspections. Initially, I like to see these no later than 60 days after we do the initial inspection. Now, when we do the initial inspection, we're looking to make sure the caulking is there. We're making sure that it's nice and tight and sealed proper, and we're making sure all the welds are good. We're going to go over it just to make sure, because these things rack, twist, flex quite a bit. And even though it's going to be on a truck bed, it's still got its own movement. So I want to make sure we address all the problems with this particular Lance camper. They all are going to flex and twist and rack differently. Even if I got the same exact brand, same exact model, same exact year, it's going to have its own little quirks. So that being said, we want to see it 60 days afterwards, then come back once a year. So when you come back once a year for your warranty, we're going to, so now this is obviously July 23, so we'll say September, you come back in, we do your warranty. You're going to get a warranty from September of 23 to September of 24. You come back in September of 24, we extend the warranty from the 24, September 24 to September 25, and then from 25 to 26. We do them sequentially every year. So we want to see these things come back. Unlike other shops that just go, hey, thanks for your money, I want to make sure our work is doing what these folks paid us to do. And if there's any issues, I want to address it. And you know, some folks, they have to travel a little bit, but there's a lot of work going into this. You don't want to have to do this twice. I don't want to have to do it twice. So we'll say that someone doesn't come in, and they don't come in for a year. They skip a year for whatever reason. Something happens, they can't make it in. And then they come in the following year. So now you will fall out of warranty. You'll fall out of warranty. You bring it back in, we look it over. If everything's good, we put you back into warranty. But if there's some other issues that we need to fix to get you back into warranty, the customer is probably going to be responsible for those, especially if it's things that we could have remedied prior, something simple that we could have addressed, you know. And that's why we do it from year to year. But you come in, look, and it doesn't have to be 12 months. It doesn't have to be right there at September. If they come in August of 24, that's okay. You know, we just want to see it every year to make sure that, you know, we're doing what you all paid us to do. So, but like you said, we already went over the maintenance and everything else. Let's see. Oh, the insert trim is right there. Let me show you what that is. See if I can find my little sample here. So here's a piece of what they normally use in the RV industry. It's right here. And you can see that little track in there. Well, this just snaps in. This cheap stuff just snaps in and it slides back and forth. You can see right there. So what we use, obviously this is black, this other stuff is white, but you can see it's got a little groove in it. And that little groove sits in that track right there. So it'll sit right in the, maybe probably slide this one back a little bit. It's that little track. So it sits in the track and it sits over the track. What that does, it forces water around. Water has what's called an adhesion principle, so it'll come right around and it'll go right into the gutter, and that's what I like. We don't sell anything. Just keep that in mind. We don't sell anything. We are just a service center. We don't sell one thing at all. I don't sell this either. I have to buy this at 2 miles at a time, so we have to get big pallet loads of it. They won't sell us one roll. So again, we don't sell anything here. And like I said, these aren't really tutorials. If you pick up a tip or you pick up a trick that I showed you, cool. But and again, we appreciate y'all watching, but just keep that in mind. There's a lot to these coaches, and I put on commercial roofs quicker than I have put on some of these camper roofs and coach roofs. So, well, we appreciate y'all watching, and like I said, we got everything all done. I think we walked around the whole coach already, and I showed you all the stuff we already did. So, but again, we appreciate you watching. We see you on the next one. Care package. Right. So in our care package, we have caulking. We got primer. We have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, it will simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do, and it's raining out. Right now it's raining, you're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you try and do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. You squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. What are you talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that off because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. You're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You're also going to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. I get my fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggone thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. Oop, hey, there it is. Now you got the film. We take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That simple. It doesn't all sit in there. You can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we get that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.